What change do you want to see in the world? Pick your poison of injustices that need to end. Crime, poverty, corruption, war. But why stop at just those issues when you could solve them all? A young Romani boy named Victor Von Doom once thought exactly that after suffering brutal injustices that robbed him of both his childhood and his parents. Now devoid of innocence and compassion, Victor vowed that from that day forward, he would never let human weaknesses keep him from ridding the world of the injustices that plagued all mankind. Victor Von Doom was born in the fictional European country of Latveria to Romani parents. As a child, Victor and his people were often discriminated against, if not outright brutalized, by the Baron of Latveria as well as his soldiers. Victor's mother, a sorceress named Cynthia Von Doom, having grown very weary of the Baron's actions, made a desperate deal with the powerful demon lord Mephisto, granting her the ability to fight back against the Baron and his soldiers, but at a steep cost. While Cynthia was able to deliver a devastating strike against the soldiers, it didn't take her long to come back to her senses, as she had not only sold her soul to Mephisto in exchange for her new powers, but unfortunately Cynthia's magic also caused the death of every child in the village. Cynthia ultimately rebuked the power granted to her by Mephisto, but much too late, as in her trance, she was mortally wounded by one of the Baron's soldiers. A short time later, Cynthia was found and comforted in her last moments by her husband. The loss of his mother was crippling for young Victor, but unfortunately, it would not be the end of his torment. Victor's father, renowned for his healing hands, would be forced by the Baron to find a way to save his dying wife. Although it was obvious to Werner von Doom that the Baron's wife was beyond saving, he still tried his best, and then swiftly left the Baron's estate to return home to Victor. When he arrived, he took Victor by the hand, and they both fled as quickly as they could into the wilderness, as it was only a matter of time before the Baron's wife died, and the vengeful Baron would undoubtedly blame Werner von Doom. As Victor and his father made it deeper into the mountains, they were in fact pursued by the Baron's soldiers, who had been instructed to kill both Werner and Victor on sight. While the father and son were able to escape capture, the mountains they now found themselves surrounded by proved to be a completely inhospitable environment to hide. As the temperature outside plummeted around them, Werner made the ultimate sacrifice to safeguard his son by removing as much of his own clothing as he possibly could, wrapping it around Victor and shouldering him in a warm embrace. The next day, Victor and Werner were found and rescued by members of their Romani camp. Victor fortunately managed to live through the experience mostly unharmed, but the same was not true for his father, who was severely frostbitten. Soon after they returned to the camp, Werner would succumb to his injuries as Victor looked on in despair. Something snapped inside of Victor that day. He had become orphaned and was forced to grow up quicker than any child ever should. He grew reclusive, cutting off the rest of his people as well as his childhood love, Valeria. He vowed that day that not only would the Baron pay for his crimes against the Romani, but the entire world would have to answer for its sins. As Victor grew into adolescence, he discovered his mother's secrets of sorcery. Victor was a natural-born sorcerer, and he quickly mastered what little magic his mother had left behind. often using it in conjunction with his developing technological prowess to torment the Baron and his soldiers. He had built quite the reputation by his adulthood, not only in Latveria, but as far away as the United States, where his technological abilities were especially coveted. Victor was approached one day by a mysterious man from the United States who offered him a full scholarship in New York City in exchange for his talents. Realizing that he no longer had anything to gain by staying in Latveria, took up the man's offer and left his people behind. Upon arriving at university in America, one of the first notable men Victor met was the brilliant Reed Richards. Despite both men's similarities in intelligence, they did not become friends, but rivals, as Victor was too far gone at this point to acknowledge any man as his equal. He locked himself away, performing forbidden experiments. Experiments that he hoped would soon allow him to peer into the underworld so that he may rescue the soul of his long-dead mother. One fateful day, as Victor was out of his dormitory, Reed Richards entered without permission, curious to discover what Victor was up to. He discovered a machine so elaborate that even he had trouble deciphering its contents. However, Richards was able to identify a blatant flaw in Victor's calculations that could spell disastrous if not corrected. Reed tried to bring the flaws in the calculations to Victor's attention, but he was bitterly dismissed. A short time later, Victor activated the machine, and for the first time in his life, he peered into another reality. The following day, Victor awoke in a hospital to the news that not only was he expelled from university, but his face was now horrifically scarred. He left America, traveling the world in search of a new purpose. He found that purpose deep in the Tibetan mountains as he was inducted into a sect of monks who helped him hone both his mind and body to perfection. Once he had mastered himself and the monks, he put them to work forging a suit of armor that would blend both magic and technology into the perfect new face and body of not Victor, but the enigmatic and omnipotent Dr. Doom. Once the mask was fitted to his face, Doom immediately left the monks, setting his sights on his former home in Latveria. When Doom arrived back in his homeland, he saw that not only had conditions not improved for his people, but the Baron responsible for their hardships had risen to the monarchy. Doom appeared before his people, promising to overthrow the former Baron's regime and make him pay for all of his crimes. With the support of his people and his own magical and technological might, Doom was able to overcome the monarch and his army, killing him in the process and establishing himself as the rightful ruler of Latveria. Having accomplished his goal in Latveria, Doom devoted his efforts towards improving the rest of the planet through world conquest. Dr. Doom first appeared in Fantastic Four number 5 in 1962, penned and illustrated by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. In this issue, Dr. Doom captures the Fantastic Four and forces them to go on a time heist to recover Blackbeard's treasure, a collection of baubles endowed with magic by Merlin that make the possessor immortal. He takes Susan Storm, the Invisible Woman, hostage, while the rest of the team travel to the past. However, Doom is outsmarted by Reed Richards, who fills a chest with worthless chains in the place of the valuable treasure Doom coveted. Just when it seems like they've got the upper hand on Dr. Doom, they smash his body to bits, only to discover that it was a Doom bot the entire time. In fact, Dr. Doom would have defeated Reed and the others if not for the intervention of Susan, who managed to break out her teammates. Dr. Doom, then managed to avoid capture even from the Human Torch, Johnny Storm, who has the power of flight. This comic would be the first time that we ever saw Dr. Doom's origins in detail. I will skip the origin story for the most part, as I already went over it in detail. I chose this comic specifically because it shows off Doom's character traits perfectly. The plot of this run is that Dr. Doom manages to trick the Silver Surfer, an alien with immeasurable cosmic power, into a vulnerable position in which he is able to siphon away that power for himself. Once Doom acquires this power, he uses it to rain terror around the world, especially for the Fantastic Four. Doom is basically invincible in this comic, as nothing the Fantastic Four, nor the various militaries of the world try against Dr. Doom, have any lasting effects on him. In the end, not even Reed's cosmic energy machine can really stop Doom, so he has to stop him in perhaps the most intelligent way, making him defeat himself. Preying on Doom's need to prove himself superior to others, especially Reed Richards, Doom is tricked into violating an edict Galactus imposed upon the Silver Surfer to keep him banished to Earth. Doom tries to catch and destroy Reed's cosmic energy machine, just to be ejected from the Surfer's board and lose all of his newfound powers. While this story is relatively early in Dr. Doom's comic book history, it's firing on nearly every cylinder that makes him iconic. He's incredibly intelligent and conniving, even managing to steal power from a being much more powerful than himself. His rivalry with Richards and the Four is front and center and plot relevant. It succeeds at elevating Dr. Doom's menace as the rest of the world is in shambles trying to find any way to defend itself from this omnipotent villain. And the amazing thing is that this is just the beginning of Dr. Doom's outings with godlike power. As the character evolved, events like this became more and more common with bigger and bigger stakes. This story serves as the first appearance of Dr. Doom's childhood love interest, Valeria. Doom's origins would continue to evolve over the decades, and introducing Valeria proved to be one of the more important elements. The plot of this comic is that Dr. Doom's castle fortress is infiltrated by a man who calls himself Diablo. Diablo plans to force Dr. Doom into a partnership in which they both rule the world, using Valeria as a bargaining chip. Diablo's unique superpowers allow him to weather any attack that Dr. Doom has to throw at him, so for all intents and purposes, for the first time, Dr. Doom is completely at someone else's mercy. Dr. Doom does eventually manage to outthink Diablo, flinging him into a long-dead future Earth. After Diablo is taken care of, Doom actually hopes to rekindle the flame between Valeria and himself, but seeing as Valeria has self-respect, she refuses to be with Victor again unless he abandons his tyrannical ways. Doom is extremely conflicted with her ultimatum, and Valeria takes his silence on the matter as a sign that he will never change. She swiftly exits the castle, mirroring Victor's own departure from her all those years ago. Remember Doom's long-dead mother, Cynthia Von Doom? Well, Doom certainly did. Amidst all of his vanity and selfishness, he was still devoted after all those years to saving his mother from the underworld. And this would be the issue to establish that he does this every year. Every year, on Midsummer's Eve, Doom would challenge the powerful demon lord Mephisto to a duel to free his mother. In this issue, Doom is pitted against a champion of the Dark Lord, Kagrok the Killer. The boundless power and intellect Doom accrued over years of villainy and devotion to the dark arts proves insufficient in the face of Kagarok the Killer, and Doom is solemnly defeated. Although he'll have to wait another year to challenge Mephisto once more, Doom refuses to give up hope and vows that next year he will triumph and release his mother's soul from damnation.